Hey for one, Ekman here with another video, and we're about a month into the first set of the Dragon Ball Super card game Fusion World, and we've also had like the online client. I've been doing a lot of games on that, probably like over 200 at this point, as well as just tournament stuff and just all the reports I've been doing. And all I'm just trying to say is that with a month more of knowledge, I have just more thoughts about what the tier list would look like for this meta, and honestly, I think it's pretty concrete at this point as well. But I want to just kind of go through it real quick, go over my thoughts, and just do a quick video going over my thoughts of what the tier list for this first meta looks like. So real quick, if you guys do want to see some of the data I'm looking at or what my thoughts are based off of, I have a lot of tournament reports in my website, Eggman Events, which is linked below, so you guys can check that out and also get some example deck lists, including some God rank ones that I've been able to find and kind of hosted onto the website as well. But we're going to go through it. We do have more tiers than I usually have. Normally I kind of have like just kind of more overhead or just kind of over encompassing tiers, but for this one I have a little just more thoughts and just because it's like simple, just 12 leaders exist in this game, that it's easier to just go over 12 of them all at once compared to like One Piece right now, which is six sets deep, have over 50 leaders. It's a little bit easier to just kind of go over my individual thoughts for every deck that just kind of exists in this format. So but it kind of goes from the low end to the top end. We have unplayable, worst deck in the format, playable, tier 1.5, tier 1, the runner-up, and the best deck in the format. So and honestly, I'm going to just say it right now, I don't think any deck is unplayable. I'm putting it there just kind of to show I think that any deck is playable right now. The game is in a good enough spot where you could do well with any one of these leaders. Sometimes it's easier than others, and there's either some skill or luck involved in some of them, but I think that all the decks are in a good enough spot that you can sleeve it up and you can have some success with it. And I also think that any one of these leaders can make it to God rank if you grind enough with it too, which is I think just shows like how good the meta is right now. It's a little bit skewed on the top end a little bit, which we'll talk about, but there we go. So anyways, we're just going to get started into it. I know we've been rambling for a bit, but worst deck in the format, and I'm going to get some comments on this, is Ginu. Honestly, I've played against it like once or twice in my 200 plus games. I've never lost to it, and I think that it is in a really good spot, like conceptually, and I think it can still win games. I know people have grinded with it to get to God rank as well, but it's just like the worst deck in my mind. It's a little bit cheesy, right? It does have a combo. It does kind of depend on you not playing against Broly, or I guess Red has the potential to Red, like Beerus, has like a lot of good ways to like get rid of your cards on board. There's just a lot of interactions that make it a little bit tough for Ginu to succeed, I think, in the current format. But it's not a terrible deck. I do think that there's some viability with it. I think the Ginu 2-drop just works better in yellow decks as it is, but it's not a terrible deck. And again, it's something that I think people are going to keep revisiting as we go through these formats, but it's just okay. It's just okay. So I think it's the worst deck in the format, but that doesn't mean it's bad, and it doesn't mean that it's not viable for climbing up through the ladder and stuff. It's just the worst deck in my own mind. So next up, we have the playable list, and real quick, we're going to put Trunks in there real quick, and I think I'm going to put Vegeta there. I don't know. You guys might make fun of me for this. He can maybe go up to 1.5, but I think it's pretty clear that blue is probably the worst color in the game of the four. Again, doesn't mean it's an unviable color, but it's just the worst one. Mostly because it doesn't really have like a really good top end or kind of end game strategy. You're just kind of gaining value throughout the game, and because of that, you just have sometimes a hard time going through what you're doing. So I think that that's probably there. I also think that we can probably put the starter deck Goku here. He's actually good. He's like, there's some really good gameplay with it. I think that just in this current meta, he just doesn't have enough of a foothold over what the Universe 7 Goku can do. But he's something I think as we get more and more cards. And the issue with him right now is that the Goku is like, they're just, most of the cards that are good in red are already Universe 7, right? So you do get the advantage of using like the plus 5k on defense once per turn, but I think just a blanket plus 5k to everything on offense with the U7 Goku is just better in the current format and current set of cards. But this does look like a deck that can get a lot of value as we get farther into this meta and into more and like bigger card pools. It just doesn't really fit the card pool that exists right now in my mind. So we're putting it here in playable. I still think it's great. I know people have gone to God with it, but it's just like the not as good as it could be, I think, in comparison. So And then next up we have tier 1.5, so just kind of a step down below. And in my mind, I think that's kind of fits with stuff like Beerus. I think Beerus fits here pretty good. Also, the Son Goku fits here as well. These two are just kind of in a similar boat. I do like Beerus a lot. I think it does have some power, but it doesn't really. It doesn't really feel like I'm winning the game. Whenever I win, I feel like I'm just barely getting there, right? Like I barely have enough gas in the tank to get there. There's a lot of other leaders where most of my games I feel like I've won it like by turn 2 or 3. Beerus is like a 50-50 for most of it. So that's kind of where I thought. But when you win, you feel really good about it and you feel like you can make the right plays. But it's a little bit dependent on that too. Son Goku U7 is kind of the same way too. It's the more aggressive version of Beerus. Beerus can be aggressive too, but you are kind of dependent on seeing the right things, but you do have like a potential for a lot of offensive pressure if your opponent doesn't have removal or ways to kind of mitigate it too. So I'm going to put that there. And then I'm also going to put 17 and 18 in here. And honestly, 17 18 could probably even be put into tier 1, but spoilers, there are just 2 better green decks that exist in the game. And there's really not enough of a reason to play 17 and 18 to just do it. There's no advantage enough that you can kind of give up the benefits from the other 2 green decks in my mind. So I think it's just kind of like the worst green deck by proxy. It's still really good compared to a lot of other decks in the game right now. It's just the worst green one, so there's not a lot of reason in my mind to play this deck, especially since it's a little bit kind of dependent on finding like your 3-drop lab, and then you kind of get like some early game, like you don't really get a lot, but then later game you get all this free energy, so it's nice, but I just don't find enough reason to play it myself, and we're going to put this in this 1.5. And then kind of rounding it out, we have the Goku Black. This deck can go off. I think it is the best blue deck that can exist. The issue is that it's very inconsistent. But if you start off going second and you go double Mai into a 1-drop Zamasu, you win most games. Like it is very tricky for a lot of decks to answer that kind of pressure, and because of that, and then you go into Goku Black on technically your opponent has 3 energy and you also have 3 energy, but then you play a 6-drop 40k that also plays additional cards from your hand. You just lose, unfortunately. Like that is just like how good that Goku Black is if you're able to do the things you want to. So it is very scary. It's probably the least consistent good deck that there is, but when you're able to go off with it, it is very strong. So we're gonna put it at the bottom here. I think it's better than Trunks and Vegeta. I think both of them are strong. We just have fundamental issues with what the current card pool is for blue right now. But both can get better later, just not right now. So we're gonna put Goku Black in that tier 1.5. And then tier 1, I think the rest of these should be pretty self-explanatory to you guys, but we're going to go through it anyways. We're going to put Gohan and Cooler there. I think these 2 are very strong. In spoiler, there's another yellow and green deck below it, but I think they're very strong. They're very viable in a lot of ways. They are a little bit dependent on finding certain cards to make sure that you're able to get your strategies off. Gohan, if you're able to get a 5-drop Goku and get it to stick, you get so much extra pressure and power. Being able to be a 35k leader both on offense and defense once per turn is amazing. You get a lot of additional power, and you're like, it just helps you. If you don't see 5-drop Goku on curve, or your early curve is kind of messed up, Gohan becomes pretty tough in a lot of ways. But with that, you get so much extra advantage. It's kind of unfair at times. And then obviously 8-drop Broly is very good in this leader. So if you find the 5-drop, you just get there a little bit easier too, and with more power too. So and then if you don't find your 5-drop Goku, or you don't have like the time to play it, then the deck just kind of trails off in my mind. But that's kind of why we're putting it in the tier 1 spot. But that's my opinion there. And then Cooler, I think honestly, like, the only thing that's holding Cooler back is consistency, but it's kind of like Goku Black. It's like it's like a easier to play, maybe not easier to play, but just more consistent version of Goku Black, in the sense that you have so much offensive pressure with this deck, especially if you play the Ginu package, which I at this point think is the best way to play it. But being able to discard 1 card and have a 40k Frieza attack twice is a lot of pressure. If you're playing against any 20k leader, you pretty much win pretty early throughout the game. Being able to use the effect to like the Ginu into things, it's very, very strong. And the only issue is that since we are a crit leader on the front side, we have just less cards to draw in general. So Also, if your opponent kind of recognizes that you want to be awakened as soon as possible and keep you off that, and you don't find your cards for self-awakening, the deck gets a little bit worse. But if you find all your pieces, you awaken on 3 energy, and you have like 3 or 4 20Ks on the board by that point, you probably won the game against anything that's not Broly. And even then, Broly has a really tough time going down to 3 life so early. So I think it is like contention for like literally the strongest deck for what it is, but like it has like the strongest start in the game outside of maybe Goku Black, but the consistency can sometimes be there, and like I'd say like 1 out of like 10 or 8 games, like you will just open your hand, it won't be very playable, and your opponent will recognize that you just kind of lose on the spot. So that's why we have Cooler there, but it's my favorite deck to play right now personally, and I think it's very, very strong in this game in general. So and then we got 2 more spots here. We're gonna put Frieza in the runner-up, so spoilers on who the best second format is, but I think Frieza is just a more consistent version of Cooler. You do lose out on a little bit of offensive pressure because you can't use its effect offensively. It's only kind of a defensively, but it's twice as good on the defense kind of trade-off, so I think that's very good for the deck. You still have a 40k Frieza. You just don't get to attack with it twice, but you don't have to like pitch the extra cards to get the restand for it. I think the 4-drop Cooler works out a little bit better in Frieza as well. And then you just have like a really good like mid to late game as well. So you do if you're playing a little bit too passively, 8-drop Broly can kind of wreck Frieza at time too, but you just get a lot of advantage from it. I think you get to awaken pretty consistently easily if you're playing like the Ginu package too, and that just makes Frieza very, very strong in a lot of ways. So I do like the deck. I think it's very strong, and it's a little bit too defensive for me compared to Cooler personally, but it's very strong. And if asked which one's better, I think I'd always say Frieza, though Cooler is just a little bit more my style for it. So there it is there. And then lastly, best deck and format. I think it's Broly, personally. The fact that it's a 25k on defense, it just kind of warps a lot of matchups for you. The other thing is that you do get that free ramp, which means you get to your 8-drop a little bit earlier, which just helps out a lot of decks and a lot of kind of play styles. So I think it's worth mentioning that it's not unbeatable in a lot of ways. I think it's just the best deck in my own eyes, but it is beatable in a lot of ways. So I think Frieza and Cooler specifically have some really good chances against it using your pressure, but the only issue is that Frieza and Cooler are really good at getting out these 20k bodies, and then once you awaken, they do nothing anymore. They're just combo power, which is just different for it. But Frieza and Cooler, being able to have the 40k Frieza and get pressure from that is strong, and you like a 35k double strike that stuns, like stuns a card, which is like the closest thing to removal for 8-drop Broly outside of another 8-drop Broly is good. And I don't know. So I think it's just the best deck and format. It's not unbeatable in any way, but if asked, I'd probably say this one 9 times out of 10. I think Frieza is pretty close runner-up, but I think Broly is the best deck that we have right now. So anyways, here's a tier list. Again, there's a little bit more tiers than I usually do, but I did want to kind of go over it. And I know you guys skipped to the end, so I'm just going to go through it real quick one more time. I don't think any decks are unplayable. I think the worst deck in the game is probably Ginu, but that doesn't mean you can't win with it. It's just a lot tougher than the other ones. I think Trunks, Vegeta, and Goku are very strong potentially, but the card pool just doesn't kind of lend itself to what these leaders are trying to do right now, and so it's a little bit tougher for these 3 in general. I think Goku Black is the best blue deck, even though it is a little bit of a combo cheese deck at times. When the combo goes off, you just win on the spot. 17-18 is good, but it's just the worst green deck, so there's not a lot of reasons to play it over Gohan or Broly. Beerus and Goku, I think, are the best red ones. I like Beerus personally more from a playstyle sense, but Goku might be the better one of the 2. Gohan and Cooler are fantastic, but they are like a tiny bit dependent on finding a key card to help push their win rate a little bit higher. Frieza is really consistent and gains a lot of value throughout a game, and then Broly just has like the best in-game pressure I think that exists, and gets to 8 Dawn faster than, or 8 energy, faster than any other deck in the game right now as well. So anyways, this is my tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about this, what I got right and what I got wrong, and that will be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.